Welcome back to Movies That Matter, the podcast where entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. I'm Chris Flaherty. Thank you for joining us from the podcast studio over here at Burlington Cable Access Television. Today we'll be discussing Stanley Kubrick's 1964 political comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. It was released on January 29th, 1964, both written and directed by Kubrick, and is loosely based on the 1958 novel by Peter George, who also contributed to the screenplay. The film stars Peter Sellers in 3 roles, alongside George C. Scott, Sterling Hayden, and Keenan Wynn. And my guest today is Mike Wick, director of the Burlington Public Library. And in the spirit of transparency, folks, I am recording the intro and outro for this episode at a different time because, as you will soon hear when Mike and I were discussing this film, my vocal cords were not at maximum strength. So without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, Mike, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for giving me an excuse to watch this film. It's been a while.
It's been a while for me, too. I think the time before that I had seen this was maybe 8 or 9 years before that.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I first watched it, I was like, I don't really get it. But now, given the weight of the world, I'm like, oh, I get it.
It's a pretty dark film, isn't it?
It is, but it's funny still.
Yeah.
And we should disclose we chose to do this film before certain texts got leaked this week.
Well, there's nothing about leaks in the...
No leaks.
No leaks in the movie.
Just crazy war plans is all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Mike, in your own words, can you tell us what Dr. Strangelove is about?
So, Dr. Strangelove is a movie that tries to take... or it successfully takes a incredibly dark subject of nuclear holocaust and brings a very, very funny injection of humor into it because it's an absurd situation. Nuclear brinksmanship was an absurd situation. And so it's about the implications of that, the ineptitude of the individuals at the top.
Yeah.
And about, I think one of the parts of the movie that I appreciate the most is the character of Dr. Strangelove and this very menacing thread of German military conquest that is, that was a part of brinksmanship.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was like watching the film last night and I was like, it's an hour and a half and he doesn't talk for the first time for like maybe 51 minutes in. So I was like, why is he like the titular character?
Yeah.
And then I sort of, because like at the end, like he really gets what he wants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so, after World War II, the U.S. and Soviet co-opted a lot of German scientists from the, Third Reich, and they pulled them into they basically absorbed them, and it created a very sinister aspect of our political and cultural landscape because of that. No, and at the end, and spoilers if you haven't seen the film, but I'm not sure why you're listening if you haven't seen the film. He gets what he wants. He gets to restart the human race in an Aryan perspective, and he gets so excited that he learns to walk again. Yeah. I was reading something before coming here. I did some research, and they were referring to that as a Lazarus moment. Peter Sellers in the character of Dr. Strangelove was improving a lot.
Yes,
as Dr. Strangelove, and the whole moment when he's fighting his arm was not scripted.
Right,
and he gives several Sieg Heils. He calls the president Mein Führer twice, and that moment is something that is it's more chilling than nuclear holocaust, I would think.
Yeah,
because it was this military industrial complex that revived the horrors that the Nazis were trying to
implement,
realize.
Yeah.
Implement. Exactly. Thank you. And okay, well, there you go. You thought you had defeated it. No,
Yeah,
you just gave it life.
Yeah, no, for sure. So do you remember the first time you watched this film?
I must have been in college. So I was a literature major in undergrad, and I kind of got on this tear of watching the was it AMC's like 100?
The
best
greatest
movies?
100. Yeah,
Yeah, and so I started working through that, and I'd seen some other films of Kubrick's. He's pretty difficult to miss.
Yeah.
If you like watching movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen, I think, The Shining and Full Metal Jacket before that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started dipping into his earlier movies. Paths of Glory, I know that this is a question that you have.
No, that's fine.
later on.
We'll jump around.
Yeah, but, Paths of Glory was one that really stood out to me. And that's also a movie about war. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Passive Glory, no, but Full Metal Jacket, definitely.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket. I mean, you couldn't be our age and
Right.
not know Full Metal
Yeah,
Jacket.
for sure.
Paths of Glory is a Michael Douglas is in it. It's about World War I. It's about generals, and in World War I they were just making people like jump the ditches that they had dug into, and just be obliterated. They jump up, they'd be shot, mown down. I mean, it was a horrific war that they had in trench warfare. And Michael Douglas plays a French officer, and he refuses to push his men over the top of the trench and just die because he knows what's going to happen. And so that, to me, like Kubrick was in Full Metal Jacket and Dr. Strangelove, Kubrick was very interested in these military cultural moments. And that was something that I was interested in as well. I had an undergraduate certificate in peace and conflict studies. And so war was something that I really thought a lot about and read a lot about, and the absurdity of war,
Sure.
I guess. And so this really spoke to me when I watched it the first time. I had a pretty good idea of what was going on. I think as I've rewatched it, I've gained deeper understandings of certain things.
Yeah.
It's definitely a movie that can... you can develop a greater appreciation through through repeated watching or viewing, and so it stuck with me for a long time.
Yeah, no, I was watching it with my fiance last night, and sometimes she was like, "This is hitting a little too close to home now," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still funny."
Yeah, that's funny because my wife didn't. I watched it with her, and she didn't see the humor in it.
Oh,
I mean. I can understand that too. She was focused on nuclear holocaust, and I get it that it's very difficult to get beyond that.
Yeah.
But Kubrick really mines it for a lot of great humor.
Yeah, and Sellers is incredibly... Like, I didn't realize he was playing all those characters the first time I watched it years ago.
Yeah.
And just, he's so versatile, like, from doing Dr. Strangelove to, like, having a drunken phone call with Dimitri.
I love that phone call. Now, Dimitri.
You don't even need to know who's on the other line. You understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to talk down a drunken Russian premier.
I'm sorry, too. Well, it's good that we're both sorry.
Yeah. It's not a competition. And then just everything George C. Scott says and does.
Oh, so George C. Scott was very angry at Kubrick.
Really?
Yeah, because so Kubrick was he was a chess player, and so was George C. Scott.
Okay.
And George C. Scott wouldn't do the takes in the manner that Kubrick wanted him to. Kubrick wanted him to do more over-the-top performances. Okay. I'm thinking of maybe like the moment when they're realizing that the airplane is unbeatable, non-stoppable. Yeah, they can't stop it. He's flying, and Buck Turgidson, George C. Scott, Buck Turgidson. He's talking. He's getting really excited. Oh my God, he's really enthused. He's like, you can't believe the things that we can do, and he's puts his arms out and he's making these noises of the airplane going. That was not the shot that he wanted in the movie.
Really?
Yeah. So what would happen is that Kubrick would ask him for one kind of really outsized, kind of silly take, and then he'd be like, "No, we're going to do it straight."
Okay.
And George C. Scott wanted to do it straight every time. And then when he saw all the first funny takes happening, he got angry and said that he would never film with Kubrick again. The only way that Kubrick got him to do those takes was to beat him at chess repeatedly.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and so they would have repeated chess matches, and Kubrick won most times.
Wow!
And so that kind of shifted the dynamic, I think, a little bit for Scott.
I feel like that slowed production down. Just like, all right, we're gonna play chess.
Well, apparently George C. Scott was a very slow player.
Okay.
He was taking a lot of time to consider his moves, and Kubrick wouldn't. Kubrick would walk over after Scott would be looking at this board for an hour, and he'd make one move in quick response to Scott's move.
He hustled him.
And he'd beat him. Yeah.
That's so ironic because to me, this is one of George C. Scott's like most iconic roles.
Yeah, right? I mean, you've got, I think the other role that I really like with Scott is Patton.
Yeah, last night I was like, wow, he went from Patton to this.
Yeah, and it's so different. Because, they're both generals, right?
Right, yeah.
In this. And Patton is, I think, the casting or the acting that he wanted to do for Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
He comes across as a very kind of foolish character in Dr. Strangelove.
I think he needed to because this is an absurd situation.
Yeah. But I mean, even like the things, he's always shoveling bubble gum into his mouth, after he's been admonished by the president.
Right.
He's this kind of chagrined schoolboy in it, and that's far, far beyond what Patton was, right?
Right. Yeah. No, and I do love when he's trying to plant the camera on the ambassador. He's like, look. And just everything. He's like, I smell a big commie rat.
Yeah. He's the great. He's a really great character. And gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who played I don't even remember the name of the character now. The guy with the precious elements.
General Ripper.
Ripper. General Ripper.
I can't remember his name, but General Ripper. Yeah.
He played more the character that I think George C. Scott would want to have played.
Right, just the straight lace,
but insane. Deeply
yeah.
insane.
And that was just some of the close-ups where he's at the cigar and and the black and white lighting.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's nuts.
Yeah, exactly. But Sellers was supposed to play 4 parts.
I read that, which is insane to me.
Yeah, right. Well, so I guess I haven't actually seen Lolita. I've never read the book. I haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
That's one of that and Barry Lyndon, I think, were the only 2 movies that I haven't seen of Kubrick's.
Okay.
Barry Lyndon because it's 4.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And it's a period piece, a very moody period piece. You've
seen more Kubrick than me.
But
I gotta catch up.
Yeah, right. But I guess in Lolita, he also played several parts. And so the movie house said that Kubrick could have, or Columbia could have, Sellers to play in this movie, but only if he did 4 parts. They required him to do 4 parts, and so he was going to be doing Major King Kong's part, which is the guy who was flying the Super Air Fortress or whatever it is that they call it. The B-52.
Yeah, but then we would have missed out on Slim Pickens, which he could read the phone book, in my opinion, and I'd happily listen to him.
He's got such a distinctive voice.
Yeah. So, when you rewatch this film over the years, what really sticks out with you?
Well, the humor gets deeper the more that I watch it, and the horror gets greater the more than I watch it. It's I guess another thing that kind of stands out is just the performances. As we've been talking, every performance is so good. There's very few characters in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? You can probably count them on
one hand.
Hand? Yeah. Well, I mean, and then Seller, you got maybe 2 hands.
2 hands, 1 hand for Seller.
But I mean, just the performances alone, and the I was really watching the cinematography when I rewatched it a couple nights ago, and the cinematography is so astounding because they didn't need to record in black and white, right? They didn't need to shoot it in black and white. They could have done it in color, but I think black and white really gave it a the menacing aspect.
Yes.
The shadows are darker, much darker.
I'm thinking of that one shot of Dr. Strangelove in shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just that one moment. Or, I don't know, the shadows definitely give it more of the sinister feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cavernous war room and all that. Yeah.
Can't fight in here.
Yeah.
It's the war room.
That's my favorite quote.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, you can't fight here. This is the war room.
Any other quotes to stick out in your memory?
Oh, yeah. It's funny. Definitely the very end, the last line spoken. Mind fear, I can walk. Yeah. That's like holy crow.
Yeah.
That's one I still get. I'm just getting chills just kind of retelling that. I can't quote some of them, but very funny moments. When Peter Sellers is having a conversation with General Ripper, and he's understanding.
Oh,
this man is deeply
that's nuts.
That is exactly that. Oh, it's just like, and he plays that moment so well, where he's just like, oh, okay. And it's no surprise when Ripper goes into the bathroom.
Yeah.
Sellers doesn't understand, I think, what's happening.
No, he doesn't. It's like, let's play a game. I'll try and guess the code.
Yeah.
and like before that, he's like, do you believe in the life after this one?
Yeah, I mean, if someone asks you that.
Yeah. Like, nothing clicks in your head.
Yeah. How about you? What did you have a favorite line?
There's a few. There were, obviously the last one. Mm-hmm. Like I still like remember it to this day, and like even after like the Blu-ray ended, I just looked it up on YouTube and I played it over and over just because it's so funny. Yeah, and like I guess he might have improvised that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that exact part was improvised, but I know that a lot of the hand, like his kind of hand that wasn't paying any attention to him.
Yeah,
or maybe it was paying too much attention to him. Right.
And there was I love this one moment where he's going off and he's like beating his arm for like not doing what it wants to do, and you can see in the background the actor, I can't remember his name, the actor playing the Russian ambassador is trying so hard not to break.
Yeah, well, apparently they were just roaring after that. They had to cut very closely because people just couldn't keep it together. Yeah, in the editing room, they had a very small moment of cutting before the laughter started.
Yeah, and I love when like just any time George C. Scott brings up the big board.
Yeah, he'll see the board.
He'll see the big board.
Yeah, and I think the phone call that you mentioned between
the phone call was hilarious.
And yeah. I mean, I just love the part where he's then we're both very sorry.
Yeah. There were even some moments where like they weren't like funny to me. Well, they were kind of funny, but they were like, where like the president's like, I will not be the biggest like. I forget what he said exactly, but he compared himself to Adolf Hitler.
Greatest war criminal,
since Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
Or like when Ripper's like, wartime is not for politicians, and I'm like,
Yeah. Well, that was a part that when I rewatched it a couple days ago, I was like, oh. And it's interesting because I think that was a big concern at the time, was that the generals were taking away or were running away with a lot of this, and the politicians who had the conversations with the other powers that be could get to a level of understanding that the generals were never going to want to be at. Yes, they were always going to be moving closer towards brinksmanship, and the politicians were trying to dial that back. And so it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, and this is like not even a political moment, but when Mandrake is quote unquote captured by that, the soldier, and he's like, I'll get you your money, but you're gonna have to apologize to the Coca-Cola company.
And just the moment when he's like, I gotta, just the moment when he's picking up all the different phones, and they're all shot, the cords just completely gone from me, and he, I mean, he could play so much humor into a part, and he was being very straight, he was playing it very straight at that point. Yeah. But it's just so funny.
Yeah. And originally when I first watched this, I was like, how is the president not breaking watching Doctor Strange? I'm like, oh, it's because
it's Peter
movie
Sellers.
magic.
Yeah, it's Peter Sellers.
So we talked about favorite scenes, talk about favorite quotes. Any times you've watched this film throughout the years, like that really stick out in your memory when you were like, I'm going to sit down and watch this?
I mean, definitely the first. Mm-hmm. I remember being so blown away watching this the first time that I think I sat there and just absolutely, my jaw was probably, I had to pick it up off the ground. Wow. I think, because it was like, wow, this is, not only is this one of the most poignant movies, but this was also one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it with my girlfriend, now wife, she had a completely different experience. She was like, what is funny about any of this? I'd be laughing, and she would be sitting there like, why do you find this funny? This is horrifying. Mm-hmm. But, that's just different takes. I love dark humor, and that's not for everyone.
Are there any other, like, dark... Well, I see Clockwork Orange on here, but that's not really, like, comedy.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, some of the other movies that I really like of Kubrick's, Paths of Glory, which I mentioned, I thought that was one that really stood out to me as well. Full Metal Jacket, as we talked, it's kind of like his triptych of, military films, war films. I liked The Clockwork Orange. I had a different response to it, obviously, than Dr. Strangelove. I find it interesting because it is also about violence, and it's the ultra violence, right? Mm-hmm. But it is it's at a different level. Yeah. It's at the kind of society level as opposed to a military level. Eyes Wide Shut, it was his last film, and I remember going to the theater and watching that and not really getting it, but I think I was probably 19 or 20 when I saw it, and I just didn't really understand what it was about. Mm-hmm. But I've watched that a few times since then, and it's it's definitely it's like the opposite side. He had movies about these war experiences, violence, all of that, and then he had this other side, which was like sexuality. Mm-hmm. Lolita, Barry Lyndon, from what I understand. Like I said, I haven't seen that, and Eyes Wide Shut, and I thought that was, after repeated viewings, I did get a deeper understanding of it and a better appreciation of it.
He's very versatile as a filmmaker. Yeah. Like I'm just thinking, like we haven't even touched on The Shining. Yeah. Oh my God. Which I don't even know which one would fit into those. Which category that would fit into?
The violence.
Obviously the violence. Yeah. Would you say Dr. Strangelove is a good like introductory work for Kubrick, like for someone who's never seen a Kubrick film before?
Well, it's not like the most easily palatable. I think it's probably the one movie that could turn some people off of Kubrick. Potentially, people who don't like dark humor. Yeah. It's, as I was watching it though, I was really surprised what a simple story it is. It's not really involved. I mean, it's not a Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange is a very complicated film. Eyes Wide Shut, very complicated film. Full Metal Jacket, less complicated, more straight, story. But this was like using the economy of language in such a way that I really haven't seen in any of his other films. And so I think that because of that economy of language, people would appreciate it, because it's a rather simple story.
Yeah. A general goes mad. Yeah. And he sets a ticking time bomb up, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a stage play, I feel like, just all the back and forth between all these actors.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a lot of good dialogue.
Well, talking about dialogue, we haven't even really talked about the Doomsday Device.
Oh my God.
Which is what the movie turns on, right? I mean, it's just a simple story. You could just have a conversation, and with the Russian, authorities, and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, there's going to be a nuclear bomb going off. Maybe they understand, and we can resolve it. Maybe it goes off in some remote location. Nobody's really going to be worried, and we can resolve it somehow." except for the doomsday device. And it's a moment that is so pregnant with horror because it's this...
Just the way he delivers it.
93 years of nuclear winter. Mm-hmm. The only way that this works is if people know about it. So why don't people know about it? And that's the best line where he's just like, whoa, this is Dr. Strangelove delivering the line, right?
Yeah.
He's like, but this only works if people know.
It's like, why didn't you tell anyone? It's like, we're going to tell people on Monday.
Yeah. Which is very funny.
Yeah. It's like, you can't trigger it, and if you try to, you can't untrigger it because that will trigger it.
Yeah.
And then just like, it's perfect because like Slim Pickens gets like radical about delivering this bomb. This is what they're trained to do, right? Yeah, and somehow he escapes, the Russian military, goes under radar.
So, Slim Pickens didn't know that this was a comedy.
Really?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
That's nuts.
Yeah, they asked. I mean, well, if you watch the scenes or you think about the scenes in the bomber, they're not funny scenes.
Not really. Not intentionally, at least.
Yeah, I think the only funny part is when he's reading the rations that they all have.
Yeah.
And he says, you'd have a good time in Vegas with those.
Yeah.
Which, interestingly enough, so this is a little bit of a fun fact of the film. Mm-hmm. It was going to be released, and they ended up pulling it back. Do you know the reason why they pulled it back?
Yeah, it's because of JFK.
Yeah, JFK's assassination was the day they were going to screen it.
Yeah.
And so Slim Pickens was actually said you could have a fun day in Dallas or a fun night in Dallas. And so in post editing they
ADR,
they changed it to Vegas.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Because you can't have fun in Dallas after.
No,
after
it's kind of hard to have fun in Dallas after that. But that blows my mind that he didn't think this was a comedy.
Yeah.
When his final scene is him cowboy riding the H-bomb to his death.
Well, that was also done at the very end of it. Apparently I think, you had, I think, as a topic to talk about the original ending.
Yes, the original, yeah.
The original ending, which was a great big pie fight in the war room.
Yeah.
And, so that would have, I think that would have been a really bad ending,
it doesn't really fit the rest of the movie.
No. It swings too far to comedy, to slapstick. And just too absurd. And instead, so they switched to having Slim Pickens ride the nuclear warhead down in this kind of, very phallic moment. And so that was decided very, very late and I think Kubrick made the decision and said in 48 hours we're going to reshoot this ending. We're going to shoot a new ending. And so they didn't even have the bomb bay doors constructed.
Okay.
So they had to redo it and then create that. And so they did some interesting blue screening in order to get that, because even the interior wasn't set up so that they could fit all the cameras in and everything. That was like a last minute call, and I think the best call that they could have made.
That is an iconic image.
Yeah.
Just him riding that H-bomb.
And the ending after that, the repeated nuclear blasts with We'll Meet Again. Oh my God, talk about a chilling song.
I do love that song.
Yeah. Every time I hear it, I can't help but think about Dr. Strangelove. Yeah,
and it's, again, incredible juxtaposition to nuclear winter.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go down into our mine shafts.
Yeah.
We can't lose the mine shaft gap.
That's another one of my favorite lines. When he starts going on a full tirade.
I mean, it's just a pivot. It's a snap 90-degree pivot. Okay, we've gone to nuclear brinksmanship. What's the next thing that we're going to fight over?
Yeah.
It's the mine shaft.
Mine shafts.
Yeah.
We need better mine shafts.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is. They make it sound enticing for all these individuals in power 10
yeah,
women
10
per
women.
per man, and they're going to have to be very beautiful. And sounds horrible. I guess we'll have to go into the mine shaft.
Well, I think the general's pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
You could see it in his eyes. He's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think his only concern is what would that what implications would that have for the practice of monogamy?
Yeah. I think he was just making sure it was okay. Yeah.
Making sure he has his pass. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. How do you think this film is a reflection of like your taste in movies or stories in general?
Oh man, if you didn't pick it up, I love dark humor.
No, I got that.
It's very dark humor. And so this is probably one of the pinnacles of dark humor for me. I really enjoy some of the kind of literature that mirrors a lot of this as well, the dark absurdity of things. I don't know if you're familiar with George Saunders. He's a short story writer who's currently writing. Brilliant author. And he takes stories that can be incredibly dark, and he forces you to have empathy towards the scenario, towards the characters. Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
I think that would be a name that most people would know. Hunter S. Thompson. I don't know if you've ever read Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail.
No.
Oh man, when he's talking about Nixon, and his dark humor about Nixon is pretty good stuff for me. That's okay. where I am in a lot of it.
Okay. Hunter, so he did Fear and Loathing in the Campaign Trail.
In addition to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole Fear and Loathing thing was a reoccurring theme for him.
I like it.
Yeah, my favorite quote from Hunter S. Thompson, which is kind of aligned with this, is when the going gets weird, the weird turn professional. And that's kind of where we were in Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, no, that's Dr. Strangelove, like in one sentence.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we see films like this anymore. I was thinking, like last night, I'm like, wow, I don't see anything like this these days.
Yeah. Because we have a hard time laughing at ourselves, I think.
That's fair, yeah.
I think that I'm surprised that this movie happened when it did too, right? I mean, Red Scares, the blacklistings of Hollywood. It was un-American to discuss, again, or to have opinions against what the current, political climate was. And so I guess maybe it's only become more so. I don't know. Or at least from an industry standard, it's become less popular to have these kind of views. Yeah,
no, for sure. I mean, I don't even know what to compare it to these days. I mean,
well, is it maybe too because it's not marketable? It's not something that you can bring to market and expect that you'd make enough money back off, because it's all
that's also probably true,
right? I mean, it feels like there is a lack of kind of risk in today's movies.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't even know how you would like pitch this film to someone in this day and age.
I think at that point Kubrick was just so he was writing the popularity, and so he was able to. That was a time, right, where you could do anything, at that point, if you were popular enough or well regarded enough. And now, it's all about the shareholders, I guess.
It's all IPs and stuff now.
Lord, yes. I'm sorry. Don't get me talking about that. I'm a big fan of comic books, but I am a very, very against the superhero films.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can talk about that another time. Did you watch? You probably didn't watch Chairgate yesterday.
No.
Oh my God.
Chairgate. What was that?
So they announced the cast of Avengers Doomsday yesterday.
Okay. All right.
In a 5.5 hour live stream.
Oh my Lord.
Where they went every 15 minutes, like it was a camera pan. Like it started out on one like actor chair that said Chris Hemsworth. And then like every 15 minutes he would go to another chair.
Just empty chairs?
Just empty chairs.
Oh my God.
And then the last one was obviously Robert Downey Jr. and he was in his chair and he was like, "Yeah, check this out."
So had he been sitting there for 5.5 hours?
That's the question. I feel bad for the intern who was like, "All right, go move the next chair."
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, you think his legs must have gone numb.
Yeah. It's the most bizarre piece of marketing, but like I gotta give it credit because we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, I won't see it. I'll tell you that much.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll live vicariously through you.
Okay. So where are we? What do you think allows audiences to connect with Dr. Strangelove, even to this day?
Well, I don't know if it's something that people are going to be connecting with 100 years into the future. I kind of wonder that because it is such a moment in our culture and our cultural history that the further people are from it, the less they may understand the humor of it. You know, they'll be like, "Wait a minute, but this was going to be," you know, I'm trying to remember the name of the book that was featured in one of the scenes. I think it was deaths, or it was like fallout in megadeaths or something like that. Yeah. And so, you know, that horrific idea that we're talking about the obliteration of humanity on the face of the earth, and it's funny. You know, I feel like people are going to find it less funny as time goes on. So I don't know. You
don't think we're going to be watching this from our mine shafts in 10, 20 years?
Well, I'll be watching it from my mine shaft. But, you know, yeah, I don't know. It's something I really can't forecast any of this. I guess it's lasted this long, so why not? But I think if you take I'm 45 and I don't like saying things like this, but, you know, if you took a 20-year-old now, you know, some young whippersnapper, would they really get this? Could they watch it without a lot of context and just from the history classes that they've taken in grade school and high school and understand why this is so funny? Or would they have that knee-jerk reaction of, you know, wait a minute, why are you laughing at this?
We'll have to have a movie night. We'll have to get some teens in here.
I was going to say, you guys are in the high school, so you could test out the theory.
We could see what's going on. Yeah. Like, do you guys get it?
I'm going to force you to sit here for an hour and a half and watch a black and white film and then ask you if you get it.
I definitely want to show this to my kids one day and be like, all right, what did you learn?
Well, so, you know, if I did that with my son, I think he understands my sense of humor, and he'd just be like, well, this is just funny to you.
Yeah, because I survived it.
We're here because it didn't happen.
Do you think there are any important messages or themes that are still relevant to this day?
Oh, absolutely. And that's maybe the scary aspect of it, is that people wouldn't find it relevant, but it is so deeply relevant. Yes, we're in, you know, even though nuclear brinksmanship isn't necessarily a thing, we still live in a world of brinksmanship in world politics and, you know, in the language that's used in our domestic politics. So, you know, we can certainly get to a moment where everything is just truly absurd. And I, you know, again, without delving too far in politics, there is a book that's been on my bookshelf that I've been wanting to read. It's called The Hitler Virus. And it is a kind of this investigation of the potential to see a scenario like the Third Reich again. It lies dormant, you know, and it will reoccur at some point in the future. And I think that that's really what this movie was about as well. Yes, it was about the Soviet Union and the United States. But they were doing what Hitler was trying to do.
Yeah.
They just picked the ball up and carried it further down, you know, to the goalpost.
Yeah, I don't want to trigger your comic book tendencies, but it reminds me of
Thanos.
No, not Thanos. I wasn't going to say Thanos. I was gonna, like when Hydra infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. After all those years after the war. And then, you know, we had the Winter Soldier and stuff. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, the deep state.
Marvel's more real than you think.
Well, yeah. But
I mean,
don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love comic books. I go down the road to Counterplay and get comics every week. I deeply, deeply love comics. But comic movies, I think, are just an aberration.
All right. We're moving on.
Yeah.
I didn't have this on it, but I wonder, for someone who, who wants to grow up to write or to make films, what do you think they could take away from this film?
Well, I think if they delved into a lot of the backstory of the film, they could learn a lot about, scripting, trusting actors or not trusting actors. So I think Sellers was given a lot of leeway to do things, and then George C. Scott was tricked into, a lot of things. And it is the filmmaker's craft.
Yeah.
I mean, Kubrick was just on the top of his game when he made this.
I was going to ask you if you thought this would be as impactful as a book, but then I forgot that it was based on a book.
So it was, but it was really loosely based on a book, right? It was a book that was a much more straight telling, and this is what Kubrick was going to do initially, was a straight telling of a potential scenario where a rogue general begins nuclear war. But I think as he thought more about it, and as he was working with Terry Southern on the screenplay, they discovered the humor. Because they would kind of get into these games of trying to think of absurd situations.
Yeah.
Because it all sounds absurd. How can people go into a room and say, yes, this is a good idea? Let's get more bombs than the other person so that if they kill us, we'll make sure that they die too. And not only will they die, but we will create an uninhabitable landscape that people will die in horrific ways. It won't even be Mad Max. People will just be melting from nuclear radiation, and
it's either 10 million or 20 million.
Yeah. I mean, and to just be like, no, this is the plan. Yeah. This is the. Wait a minute. What do you talk? This is what we're working towards.
Yeah.
So as they were working on it, they realized that they couldn't do a straight telling, but there was another movie that was released right around the time that it was slated to be released right around the time that they were targeting Dr. Strangelove, and it was a straight telling of a nuclear mistake, I guess,
yeah.
right? Or nuclear war. And so Kubrick heard about this film and ended up getting them tied up in some legal issues, and it forced them, the other movie, to push back their movie. So he got to release this without competition.
Nice.
Except for JFK's assassination.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Did you ever read about the canceled sequel? Or not the canceled sequel, but the sequel that he never got to make.
I mean,
I guess.
Is this just them in the mine shafts? I've never heard of
this. It was
this.
so I guess they discovered his notes for it after his death. And I guess he was talking to Terry Gilliam about directing it.
Oh, that would be a good person to have directed.
Yeah, but I guess it was going to take place in the mine shafts.
Okay.
And it was going to be mostly about Dr. Strangelove. And I guess he had become a recluse or gone into hiding with his now half a dozen wives.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how far that would have gone for an hour and a half.
Yeah. But I think the story is better without it.
Yeah, I think we know what happens next.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah. I mean, they delve into their mine shafts to meet again.
Yeah.
Many, many decades later.
And it's you gotta love. I do love a good ending that just lets the credits play in silence.
Yeah.
After that song ends, the credits just come up, and it's all right, bye.
Well, speaking of the film ending and the credits, what did you think of the intro credits?
Oh, the intro.
So it's the
plane coming
refueling
in
air, right? And it's this beautiful kind of dancey music that's playing.
Mm-hmm.
Very so. As I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is like a 50s romance moment.
Right.
I after my wife goes to sleep, I tend to watch a lot of older films because she won't watch anything that's black and white. And so the only exception to that was Casablanca, which she loved.
Great movie.
But it still didn't convince her to watch more black and white films.
Oh.
That and Lenny, which was not meant to be. It could have been shot in color, but it was black and white. But so it reminded me of those moments when the male and the female love interest finally get together and they're dancing, and then they go out onto the balcony and the sun's setting, and they have this wonderful moment, and they have this passionate kiss, and then the scene fades. But it's two planes that are having this kind of very sexual moment, because I think that's very intentional, that they have the refilling aspect of it, that it's meant to kind of parallel that, but it is it's refueling so that they can maintain their location so that they can strike Russia within 2 hours.
Wow. All right. I need to rewatch this tonight just to pay more attention to the opening credits, because originally I was thinking like, okay, so it's like it's the calm before the storm, like it's peace, and then
no, it's this very erotic.
The spaghetti hits the fan.
yeah. It's a quote. Buck Turgidson. Oh, that's my favorite name too in the movie.
But it's almost like you mentioned like romantic comedy. It's almost, and we didn't even mention like the subtitle of this film is How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yeah.
It's almost like the military and the bomb are kind of in this loving relationship.
Oh, well. Why else would you buy so many of them, right? And jealously guard them.
Right.
And
then as the film goes on, it's sort of like the deterioration of this relationship.
Yeah. Well,
some way.
No one in this film was portrayed in a relationship. They all had wives. Right. But the only people who were in it were their mistresses.
Yes.
The premier, the Soviet premier. Mm-hmm. He's a man of the people, is what the ambassador says. He's a man of the people, if you understand what I'm what I'm saying. Buck Turgidson with his secretary, who then seems to be flirting with another man on the phone too. Mm-hmm. And then she calls him when he's in the war room.
Yeah, he's like, "Nah, baby, I'm serious."
The part when he's saying goodbye to her and he's just getting ready to hang up, and he picks up the phone real quick and he says, "Oh, and honey, say your prayers tonight before you go to bed,
just in case." And then, of course, we have Dr. Strangelove, who is not really for monogamy at all.
Yeah. 10 women to every man.
Wow, this is an oddly romantic film.
I think that it is meant to be, right? That's a lot of the humor of it too, is that these are very deeply flawed individuals on so many levels. Mm-hmm. It's maybe not romance, but eroticism, I guess. Would maybe be the way that I describe it, and that kind of goes along with some of the other stuff that Kubrick has done.
Right.
Lolita, Eyes Wide Shut. That was a thread.
I mean, there's the metaphorical image of a giant bomb and what it's shaped like.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, it's deeper than you think.
Yeah.
Watch this film, people.
Oh, it's great. I loved it.
So as we approach the end of the hour, Mike, why do you think people should see this film?
Well, I think it's if you don't understand history, then you're doomed to repeat it. And, this is them getting even deeper into something that, I think most of humanity would disagree or would agree is a bad idea.
I hope.
But, we give a lot of, we give wheels to bad ideas through, being through our apathy, and by not speaking out against it. I mean, the real heroes in this film are not the generals.
No,
they're not the politicians. The heroes in the film are the people who have doubts.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember the name of the individual, the British individual that Peter
Mandrake.
Mandrake, thank you. Yeah, Mandrake is the hero.
Yeah, he's really the only good dude in the film.
Yeah.
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 And he's trying his best, but even in the end, he can't.
Yeah, he can't. Oh, there's no way to control it, right? It's too far. And he's the second in charge.
Yeah.
In this situation, he should be the person with the greatest potential power to be able to change this.
Yeah.
And he's completely neutered in this situation.
Yeah.
Because General Rippers, he's somehow secured the plan.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about fluoridization.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know why I drink rainwater and grain alcohol?
Rainwater and grain alcohol.
Man, if that's not paranoia 101, I don't know what it is. And I'm like, wow, grain alcohol, and you have a voice.
Yeah.
Which is ironic right now.
All the cigars that he's smoking, too.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think he had a cigar in his mouth the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just that's paranoia 101 to me. Like, it's in our water. They're messing with our bodily fluids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, be it right or wrong, I think that there's a lot of questioning now of the similar, nature.
Yeah.
And, we certainly have very heavy cultural threads of conspiracy theories, QAnon, stuff like that. And so it's there. It's just wearing a different costume.
Yeah. You're right about those who don't know our history are doomed to repeat it. Yeah. And don't throw out all your radios.
Keep one.
I know that was really crazy to me. Like, throw out all the radios. And then, he's like, a commie might dress like you. He might look like you. Yeah. So don't trust anyone. I'm like, all right. Yeah, someone's been drinking the Kool-Aid.
But it's amazing how quickly everybody conformed to that.
Fell in line with him.
So,
yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to do then.
That's what power does.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the structure of the system that they had,
We've really skirted the political line today.
I'm doing my best.
We're doing well. But we're out of time. So, Mike, to wrap up, I'll just ask, why does Dr. Strangelove matter to you?
Because I am someone who feels that, like you've mentioned, if those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, because I think it is an anti-war film. I think that it probably is the best propaganda against war, or at least a great film that speaks out against this. And it's a deeply, deeply funny movie.
It's so funny. It's scary, but it's
scary
funny.
How funny it is. Yeah,
it's like if you made Oppenheimer funny.
I haven't seen that. I actually haven't seen many recent films. I hate to say it.
I kind of left the theater with a lot of existential dread after Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
just kind of like how you just sat with Dr. Strangelove after the first time you watched it.
Yeah.
I kind of left the theater in a haze. Oh,
yeah,
crap.
Yeah, you knew exactly what you were doing, and you still did it.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's scary.
Yeah, it is.
But this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
really
you, Chris.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
It was good being here.
I have to have you come back again sometime.
I'll talk about a different type of funny. There were a lot of movies I was thinking of when you reached out to me, and I love really weird humor. UHF. I don't know if you're familiar with Weird Al Yankovic.
Yes.
Yeah. Three Amigos.
Three Amigos.
But a lot of those things I didn't think we could really mine as well as we could. Dr. Strangelove.
I've done everything from Grown Ups to a Korean found footage horror film. So all movies matter here.
Well, maybe a zombie film next.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of zombie
All
films.
right. We'll save that for Halloween then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
But you're your programming director, his turn is next.
Yes. Yeah,
So.
Daniel's looking forward to it. He's going to be much better spoken about this than I am. He's very, very, he loves movies. He's very current with, the movie climate, and I think that you'll find that his encyclopedic knowledge is fun to delve into.
All right. Well, stay tuned for part 2 of the Movies That Matter Burlington Library crossover. All right. Thanks again, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Folks, thank you for listening to another episode of Movies That Matter. Stay tuned because, as I said, Mike's colleague, Daniel Barber, Director of Programming at the Burlington Library, will be my guest next time. If you'd like to get in touch with me about the show, you can reach me either at Gmail or Instagram at Movies That Matter Pod. And the show is now available on YouTube, too. Our last episode with Megan the Magical Millennial is up there now. This one will be there, and eventually I'll get the back catalog up there, too. You can also be my friend on Letterboxd at Chris Loves Films. Loves is spelled L-U-V-S. My last 4 watched were, unsurprisingly, Dr. Strangelove, the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, and a pair of Netflix originals from 2017, Take Me and Girlfriend's Day. Folks, the real world is scary. Don't forget to love each other. And when life gets too scary, immerse yourself in your favorite movie or piece of media. Don't worry about box office numbers or Rotten Tomatoes scores. Just watch what you love. Entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. Once again, this has been Chris Flaherty. Thanks for listening to Movies That Matter. Until next time.